Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, where today, the offseason still in full effect, Drew. There is almost nothing going on in sports, man. So we thought we're going to go off the beaten path. We're going to go off the game plan.
There's like the stuff that the sports where the people play the other things with the sticks.
Well, hockey's over.
And the balls.
Hockey's over. The NBA's over. We did have the NBA draft. We didn't really talk about that too much.
No.
Maybe that's next week. Who knows?
Maybe.
Or
we keep talking about
football.
Yeah.
So welcome in. We're glad you are here with us. And today we are ranking the top 10 offenses with the best weapons throughout the NFL. We hope your team winds up on this list. But if it doesn't, make sure you let us know who we missed, who we got right as we go along with the show, because we love reading those live comments along with you. It's not just what we think. It's what you think, too.
Right. One of the hardest things to do in this list is to keep the quarterback situation out of the conversation, out of the list. Man, it was so hard because I'm sitting there going, this is a great offense. This is a great offense. Why is it a great offense? Oh, it's because the quarterback plays such great ball. That's it. Like, because when you're talking about weapons and weapons only, or even keeping offensive line out, it is so hard to put this list together.
It absolutely is. But if you want to talk quarterback, we did an episode entirely ranking every one of the quarterbacks. We had to give up a little bit. Normally, we do all 32 teams, or at least try to, make it about halfway through it. We're like, I guess we're cutting this episode in half. Today, we're only doing top 10 for that very reason, so we hope you can stick with us. Do you have comments already?
Yeah.
I saw you right.
I did, yep. Mitchell, good to see you, man. We hope we have a great show as well. Chris, good to see you. He says, Colts to win the AFC South.
He loves bringing it up. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's closer now that the Titans have traded A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. I think the biggest thing holding the Colts back is the fact they don't appear on this top 10 list of weapons, man. I mean, outside of Michael Pittman, who are you excited about in that offense?
Hey, another breaking surprise.
Matt Ryan, right?
No, another breaking news here. Neither did the Titans. Mm-hmm. Neither did the Titans.
The Jags in Texas didn't make it either, so the AFC South underrepresented when it comes to actual passing weapons. Who knew? You
know, another thing that we noticed, too, is how it became very important these last couple of years to put big offensive names and weapons in key positions. Because a couple of years ago, you're talking defense wins the NFL.
Exactly. And I still think you might be when you talk about what the Bengals defense did for them in the Super Bowl. I think that's an underrated thing nobody's talking about. Everyone wants to talk about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase coming along, and as great as those two guys have been, they've been fantastic. Let's not pretend like that Cincinnati defense from like week 15. When did they play the Chiefs? Like pretty much from that point on in the regular season.
Okay.
They were 80% of the reason they were there.
It's not like their defense won them the game. It's because our defense lost us the game.
Okay, but when they played the Titans and when they played the Raiders, they held both of those offenses to like 17 points. Playoff caliber teams to 17 points.
Yeah, you're right.
They are
surprise here. Bengals are high up on my list on offensive weapons.
They have offensive weapons, but
Bengals are just a legit stacked team.
They're getting there, especially with the work they've done on the interior of their offensive line, and I guess Lyle Collins at tackle. Look out for the Bengals in 2020. Look out for the whole AFC. Look out for the AFC.
except the AFC South.
Yeah, right. Now, let's start from the bottom, Drew. Let's start at number 10. I'm going to go first since I always kind of kick it to you. For me, this is the Buccaneers and how the mighty have fallen. This was a team that for years now has been 1, 2, 3 in terms of offense. But is it just with Mike Evans maybe getting a little bit older, Chris Godwin getting a little bit more injury-prone, Gronk now retiring, Leonard Fournette considering retirement, kind of mulling it. Even their quarterback, which I know we cut him out of it, can't decide whether he wants to play for this team anymore. Is 10 too harsh for a team like the Buccaneers that was up at the top of the list for, 3-4 years now?
Surprise here, Bucs didn't even make my top 10. They are in my top 15 because I wrote out everyone and I had to rank them because I was like, really had to look at the names. I had to look who's going to be there and play for them. And when I looked at the Bucs, I go, man, these are great weapons. But are they the best weapons? Because like you just said, the age of them. Mm-hmm. They are losing some pieces around that team. And Gronk is one of them. I know Gronk didn't play all 17 games last year, but he is a huge weapon in that offense when he's on the field. So Cameron Brate, who we both think highly of, is now full-blown the number one target. And who does Gronk like throwing the ball to? Yeah, he likes his big receivers, but he loves his big tight ends.
Brady likes throwing to the tight ends. Gronk doesn't throw to
I'm sorry.
But I knew what you meant.
That guy.
I will say this about Brate. He has big shoes to fill when it comes up to Gronk's production and what he does to defenses, the way they have to defend him. I think he's that level of wide receiving talent, but still, tight end is one of those positions that you never know until you really see it. And we've seen Cameron Brate as like the number 2 guy behind O.J. Howard, as the guy behind Gronk. If this is finally his ship, is he going to live up to the expectations? We'll see. Because every time I seem to say yes with a tight end, it never seems to come to fruition, man.
Chris says Miami has to definitely be a top 5 offense. Surprise, he's in my top 5.
And don't let me shoot down Alec Pierce. He also mentioned him for the Colts, too. He might wind up being a good player, but when you're talking about a second-round rookie, second or third? Second, I think. When you're talking about a rookie that's drafted past the first round, it's really tough to say that he's going to hit the ground from day one and be a great wide receiver. We've seen it a couple times with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Those guys were like top 10 guys and also generational talents coming out of college. We haven't seen that quite out of Alec Pierce, but maybe he winds up being a great player. I like the prospect. Let me say that.
Eddie, good to see you. He says he guesses his Packers, oh my gosh. Let me start that over. He said, I guess my Chiefs better pack it in to hear everyone talk that they don't stand a chance even win their division. Eddie, don't let them get to you, man. That's crazy talk.
It's off-season hype. By week 3, we're going to be talking about it being a dog race. Horse race?
Eddie, you remember last year where the Chiefs were really looking pretty bad, didn't look great at all. Look, we were in the AFC Championship game. It's talk. The AFC West has to change the teams like the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. They have to catch up to what the Chiefs are doing. If not, you're looking at a decade of the Chiefs winning. They're playing catch up. That's a difference. They're playing catch up. Chiefs are just holding, and I think Chiefs did the right moves to keep themselves a powerhouse in the AFC. I still think they are.
They didn't wind up making your top 10. They also missed my top 10, Drew.
They did not make my top 10.
Where about on your list do they fall?
They actually fall right at 11.
For me, I'm going to put them somewhere around in the 20s because as much as I like Travis Kelce,
right,
to me, it's almost like a one-man band there now where forever it was him and Tyreek Hill, and then maybe you had a third guy like Sammy Watkins, maybe it was Mecole Hardman a couple games, maybe it was Byron Pringle that could kind of fill in that other role when a team managed to take out those 2 top-level talents. But to me, it's just too much of a rebuilding step when you talk about them bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster, who has struggled without A.J. Brown in front of him. Or A.J. Brown.
Okay. I knew that.
Antonio Brown. That's what I was going for.
I knew that's what you were going to bring up. But you have to also remember he was hurt. And then when he did come back, he's doing whatever he could do with literally Ben Roethlisberger, a shadow of his former self.
Sure.
I mean, he's actually going to get back to a quarterback throwing the ball. I have high hopes for Juju.
I think the hope is there. I think the ceiling is there, but I think the floor might be too. So Juju scares me a little bit. The other thing is Valdez-Scantling. It's like he just came out of that offense with Aaron Rodgers, and they really couldn't make use of him very well. He struggled to find the field at times too. It's not like that's Big Ben to Patrick Mahomes. You're talking about Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes. A lot more of a lateral move there. At least Big Ben when he's old. I know there's a bunch of Steelers fans that are going to say, oh, Roethlisberger won 2 Super Bowls, great quarterback. He wasn't when Juju Smith-Schuster was as bad as he was. So I'll give you that point. The kind of counterpoint to that is it's been a couple of years. It hasn't been just one.
It was 3 years ago, and he was talked about being one of the best young receivers in the league at that time.
When Antonio Brown was the number 1.
Then he got hurt.
Right.
And then he played with Roethlisberger that was literally limping on one leg.
Well, he was playing with Roethlisberger then, too. But I will also say now that he had to shoulder the burden of being the guy. Didn't quite rise up to it. But back on track, Drew, who do you have at number 10?
At number 10, I have, and this hurts me to say, the Denver Broncos.
I like Sky Moore, too, Eddie. Sorry.
I also like him as well. I have the Denver Broncos. I'm taking how I do not like Broncos at the Broncos team at all. I'm taking that away.
Weren't you a Broncos fan at one point?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, okay. I did, totally. I'm throwing out Russell Wilson being the quarterback. I am looking at the weapons only. I'm looking at the young running back in Williams, the veteran in Gordon. I like the 1-2 punch at running back. Mm-hmm. And then I look at these receivers who really haven't had a quarterback to really throw them the ball. Now they're going to get one. I still think that the jury's a little out on these guys with Sutton and Judy. I really like Tim Patrick. I really like Tim Patrick as a third receiver. I think when you look at these 3 receivers, even with Noah Fant being gone, you're talking about a good 1-2-3 combo of receivers with Russell Wilson to literally have a heyday with. And I'm throwing him out. I'm only just talking about the talent here. I like this team's offense.
One of the big reasons why I skipped the Broncos and they didn't make my list is because there's so many question marks at wide receiver. I like Tim Patrick. I like Cortland Sutton. I like Jerry Jeudy. We just have not seen a dominant season, except maybe for like 6 or 7 games out of Cortland Sutton, out of any of these guys, period, to this point. You can point to the quarterback. I understand that. But until I see there's too many sure things in the NFL that we've seen have massive success for me to gamble on just what the Broncos have. Like the running back situation as well. Tight end, I think they're pretty soft with Noah Fant gone, but Russell Wilson historically hasn't really relied on tight ends a ton, except for finding ways to make like Will Dissly a thing for like 4 weeks before he got hurt. But the moral of the story is the reason I'm wound up skipping the Broncos, and I do respect that they are on your list, they're probably just 1 or 2 or 3 spots off my list, is just the lack of a sure thing for me. I think every one of those guys has to live up to the potential that we all see in our minds, but we haven't seen on the field just yet. So for me,
if you're asking me to go out there and start a new team, and this is the offensive weapons you gave me, I would not be angry. I'd actually look at me being above.
Oh, I'd like it too.
I look at me being above average of the NFL.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere around like 13 for me.
Sure.
And you say 10.
Sure.
Let's move on to number 9. For me, it's the Rams, an interesting team that is very thin once you get past the top 2. But I have just massive respect for Allen Robinson. I think he's a guy that he may have quit on Chicago, but this has been a guy that has like made the best out of a bad situation for an entire career.
Right.
Christian Hackenberg was his quarterback in college, Drew. Then he goes on to play with Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, and then finally 1 year with Justin Fields where it seems like he's like, I'm done with the Bears. We're done.
Yeah.
This contract was a mistake. I wish I never came to Chicago, and it didn't really seem like the effort was there. So hopefully, he's only 29 years old. People forget that. Like, it feels like Allen Robinson's been around forever, but at 29, going on to play with the Rams and Matt Stafford, this is like legitimately the first good situation that this number 1 wide receiver has had. He has made bad quarterbacks look good his entire career.
I like the Rams a little bit more than you. I'm higher up on my list. At number 9, I actually have the Chargers, and I know you like the Chargers more than I do. I like Austin Eckler. I think he's a great running back. I am worried about his health a little bit. I like the aging Keenan Allen still. I think he's still a great addition to this offense, even though he's been there. And then I really, really like Mike Williams. I obviously had a really hot season start last year where he led the NFL in touchdowns, and it kind of died down. I don't think that was him falling off. I think that was the team kind of slowing down after its hot start. I think you're going to see growth in the young quarterback that's there, but when you have these weapons in front of you, even Everett at tight end, I like this team. I like Austin and I like Williams so much that it brings everyone else up a level too. But the reason they're not as high in my list as they are in yours, to me, it dies off after this.
Sure.
It dies off after Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. There's really not a solid number 3 just yet.
I do think the Rams suffer from a lot of that too. It's Cooper Kupp and it's Allen Robinson. It's just those guys are so good that it's like, we can excuse some of the other stuff.
I'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
I know you're still talking about the Rams, but
I just like the Cooper Kupp is so good, we don't even have to mention him when we talk about the Rams. Like, you just know he's on that team.
Right, and that's what I'm going to get at about it when I get to mine.
I definitely like the Chargers too. I like them a little bit better, a little bit higher on my list, but we'll get into that when I get to my spot here. The reason I have the Eagles at number 8, and I put them over the Rams, is A.J. Brown, sure thing. I wouldn't quite put him as good as Cooper Kupp, but he's still a top 5, top 7, top 8 wide receiver that they've just brought in this season. And then they have that kind of like, they have Dallas Goedert, who's an established tight end, very good at what he does. After that, they have a laundry list of guys that you're like, he could have a breakout season this year. Maybe it's Zach Pascal. Maybe as like the third option. Maybe it's Devontae Smith that they spent the high pick on. Maybe it's Jalen Reagor who figures it out now. Or it's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside that's now moving to tight end. They have so many highly drafted guys that you're like, sooner or later, it's going to click. And now that we have the true number 1 here in A.J. Brown, all the pressure is off those guys to, when it comes to defenses defending him. They're going to focus on stopping A.J. Brown first. Who is the guy that steps up, and is he going to be able to step into the role that the Eagles foresaw when they spent all these high picks on weapons?
Yeah, I have the Eagles a lot higher than you do. I think this offense is full of talent and weapons, and
I like everybody.
Any quarterback that would get this offense should be like licking his lips about how great he's going to have a season. At number 8, I have the Saints, and I know what everyone's probably saying. If Michael Thomas comes back healthy and he is even just a smidge less than what he was, he could still be one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in this league. We have yet to see it. I know Alvin Kamara, one of the best running backs in this league, especially in fantasy numbers. This is a guy you take at number 1 if you're not crazy. But we also see him being hurt. We see him getting beat up a little bit. I love Ingram. I love Jarvis Landry being out of this, and I love the compliment of Taysom Hill, what he gives you, what he can do on this offense, flea flickers, whatever you want from this guy, he can do it. This offense is exciting, but it is very top heavy. It is very top heavy. I don't think Jarvis Landry, if Michael Thomas isn't what he used to be, is going to push you over the top.
Right.
I am based on the fact that this guy is going to be healthy, play just as good as he was doing, and you're talking about this team next year. I have him at 8. I mean, I think you have them higher than I do.
Oh, I have them a lot higher than you do. But
if they're healthy and they play a whole season next year and we do this, I might have them at like 1 or 2.
Yeah, the potential is right there.
But I want to see it first.
Exactly. And it's difficult to sort of project that forward, but if they are at their best, they could be one of the deepest teams out there when you talk about Olave and Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas coming back and Alvin Kamara coming back from injury.
I have some rookies written down on my list, so it's hard for me to say that a rookie's going to do something, but
you like it when you have Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas, like the 2 leading possession receivers almost in the NFL.
Right.
And then you throw Chris Olave in the mix with Alvin Kamara too, that can just tear teams up underneath. Who would how long has it been since the Saints have said, "Man, we have more weapons than we know what to do with"? It's just crazy. They get rid of Sean Payton, and now the offense gets so much better that it's like, man, can you believe it? If we had the offensive mastermind, who do you have at number? Oh, you have number 8 as the Saints. At number 7 for me is the Chargers. Just like you said, they are very top heavy, very similar team. That you have Mike Williams, you have Keenan Allen, both guys that are very solid, very efficient pass catchers, especially underneath. Kind of drops off after that at wide receiver. But to me, the reason I have the Chargers a little bit higher is Austin Eckler. He's almost more valuable than a wide receiver. Because when you put a wide receiver on the field, another team is going to throw their cornerback out there to stop it, a more athletic guy. When you put Austin Eckler out there, some teams will have to rely on that third safety they have to come out there and cover him. Some teams will use a linebacker. You're going to get an athletic mismatch by putting a guy that's as dynamic as Austin Eckler up against that guy. There's just no right answer because he'll run around the bigger players and he'll run through some of the smaller players. He, to me, is what tips the Chargers forward is his health. And there's a reason why they only have to limit his touches, right? He's not a guy that's going to touch a ball 35 times. They give it to him 15 to 20 times a game.
Because they're worried about his health.
But if he gets 15 to 20 solid touches and you can have him out there for those 3rd and 7s and you just dump it off to him and let him go get the first down, to me, that's worth more than any wide receiver on this list almost. Almost. There's a few wide receivers that still beat him out. But he would be a top 12 wide receiver in my book.
I like Austin Eckler. I think there's
Kamara's the same way.
There's a reason why Melvin Gordon no longer wears a Bolt uniform. It's because Austin Eckler is that good of a running back. At number 7, we actually swapped places here on Rams and Chargers. I actually had the Rams at number 7, and the reason is because Cooper Kupp, to me, is so
transcendent,
game-changing talent right now in the NFL where it's ridiculous how you go out there as a defense, you go, we got to shut Cooper Kupp down.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? You don't
do it anyway.
They don't. It doesn't matter. And then you sit there and you add someone in like Allen Robinson, and then you have other players in play like Higbee and Jefferson. These are names that a lot of average NFL fans don't know, but the reason why you put them in that list is because when you have someone like Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, these guys are the ones that become open.
Right.
And you have people that have been in the league for a long period of time. They're not relying on rookies, unknown rookies. These are veterans now. They've been in the league to 2-3 years now in the exact same offense that Sean McVay's been playing, and I know we're trying to keep coaches out of it, but this is a team where you look at that, I know this is ridiculous to say, that could win you a Super Bowl. And guess what happened? They did.
They did.
So I like it. And I don't even bring up their running backs. I know Akers and Henderson is there, but their run game is not important.
Yeah, to me, they're pedestrian.
Yeah.
I don't think they're necessarily game changers. They're not bad players, but they're not game breakers or the guy that a defense has to come into the week saying, how do we stop this guy? You don't say, how do we stop Darrell Henderson? No. You say, how do we stop Cooper Kupp? How do we stop Allen Robinson?
Right.
Corey, good to see you, man. He says he loves us, but he disagrees, and he says he thinks Jalen Guyton is a solid number 3 for the Chargers. Let me say this. I don't think he's a bad player, but just like we just said about Darrell Henderson, I think Jalen Guyton is almost an afterthought that everybody else is so good on this roster that he's going to have success because teams are sitting there scratching their heads saying, how do we take Austin Eckler out of the equation? How do we stop Keenan Allen? And when you do that, you devote all your resources to that, Mike Williams and Jalen Guyton really just tear you apart. And I don't mean to put him, in the same category. I think Williams is better. He's not a bad number 3.
Yeah, I don't.
But does he go somewhere else and become a starting wide receiver?
Exactly. That's my point. It's not that I'm going. I said they're top heavy. You said they're top heavy. It's because when you look at that team, you go, oh, you got Mike Williams. Oh, you got Keenan Allen. You don't go, oh, dude, you got Guyton. Oh crap!
We gotta stop Jalen Guyton.
But you look at like teams with trio receivers where you look at like the Broncos, like, oh crap, dude, they got Tim Patrick. We have to stop Tim Patrick because Tim Patrick has torn up offenses or defenses.
I was gonna say like
league.
the Buccaneers and Russell Gage, but
I was just trying to. I was trying to do one that I've already said. I don't want to ruin anything else. So I'm just
right.
It's not that he's a bad player. It's not that you don't want him on your team. It's talking about, is he elite? Is he going to change the game?
Is he above average to the point where defensive coordinators sweat when they think about how I'm going to stop him on Monday morning right after you got done playing on Sunday?
But it's very, very rare and special to have a third receiver that's that good.
Exactly.
There's only a couple
teams, and they're way up on our list.
Yeah.
Whose turn is it? Is it my turn? Did I talk about what was it, Chargers I did
You
last?
did. We're talking about 6.
Number 6 for me, Miami Dolphins, and maybe some people are going to call me a little crazy here.
Crazy.
Love Tyreek Hill, right? Obviously. I've been pumping the Tyreek bandwagon to the point that I've told you maybe Mahomes isn't as good as we all think without Tyreek Hill.
Blasphemy.
Love the addition there in Miami. Don't love necessarily the quarterback situation, but we said, Drew, we're not thinking about that. We're not thinking about what the quarterback's going to be able to do with that. When you pair him and Jalen Waddle together, the speed is just insane. Those are two of like maybe the top 5 fastest wide receivers in football.
I think you have him extremely low.
You're talking about Jalen Waddle, an 1,180, I think it was 86-yard wide receiver in his rookie season, now playing with Tyreek Hill that's going to be soaking up the attention. Like, he was the man.
Yeah.
And got almost 1,200 yards as a rookie. And now he's going to be the number 2 guy.
And then you bring in the man.
Exactly.
You have to, as defense, have to somehow decide how to stop it. I think you're crazy.
And I love Gesicki, too, on top of it. Very solid wide receiving option at tight end. He's only 240 pounds. Like, he's the guy that's not going to be – he's almost a slot wide receiver at this point. But when you talk about what Miami has –
I will not let you talk crap about Mike Gesicki.
I do like the top end. I really do. But just like I said, that wasn't – well – it was a little bit of crap. I'm just saying he's not a blocker.
Take those words out of your mouth.
Okay, well,
I'm just kidding.
Let's fall off the beaten path like we always do here. The reason Mike Gesicki isn't Travis Kelce and the reason he's not George Kittle is because those guys will maul you in the running game and then go out there and carry 3 defenders.
Because he plays in Miami.
Is that what it is? No, I mean, I don't think he's good of a blocker. He's not a complete tight end. And you don't need to be a complete tight end to be one of the best in football. But whatever you do had better be special. He is a special wide receiver, but he's a bit of a liability in the running game. Not like Miami's running the ball a whole lot anyway. The reason I have Miami this low is because I like Cedric Wilson, same thing. They're just as top-heavy as someone like the Chargers. Because if something happens to either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, and all of a sudden you're down to that one like elite wide receiver, teams are going to be able to kind of focus in on that and take it away. I like Gesicki. He's very effective, but he's not he's not Mark Andrews. He's not Travis Kelce. He's not George Kittle. He's that one tier below that at tight end where he's very good, just not game-breaking where defensive coaches have to come in and say, what am I going to do to stop this guy? So Miami, as much as I like their roster through and through, they're still a little top-heavy when it comes to getting 17 games out of Tyreek Hill and 17 games out of a guy like Jalen Waddle. If they can do, and also relying on Tua, but we're not counting that. You take all of that into account, and then you look at some of these teams that I'm going to have higher on the list, and you'll say, oh, well, yeah, maybe they're not quite as deep as some of these teams. They're very top-heavy and very good at the top, but the depth isn't there.
I got them higher. I have them higher than you. At number 6, I have the 49ers. And I could go through this list about who I like in their number 1 spot so much. And I know I got them at 6. I don't have anyone in my top 5, but I love Elijah Mitchell as running back. I know you're a little bit more off on the he's okay path, not saying he's bad. I'm a little bit higher than you are. And so I think you have a great...
you should like the Dolphins with Raheem Mostert then.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
I do like him. So you have a number 1 running back who I think can do anything you ask him to do. And then you go straight into the receivers, and you got Deebo Samuel. There's a reason why this guy might be the highest paid wide receiver, all said and done, when it comes up to his contract. Because this guy...
I hope for the 49ers' sake, the salary cap jumps these next couple of years.
Because this guy can do whatever you ask him to do.
Right.
And I think he's that good of a player.
I do too.
And then you go right into tight end, and you have one of the best tight ends in the league with George Kittle. I do like Brandon Ayuk. I think he is a good player. I talk about a team that's very top-heavy. This is a team that's very top-heavy to me. I know you have other running backs. I know you in the 49ers organization and under Kyle Shanahan's offense, you've seen other players step up, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about
the scheme.
We're talking about what these players can do. You have a 1, 2, 3 punch in each of the positions you want to have, and I think you do have a number one in each one, but then it kind of stops.
To me, and I'm jumping my pick here a little bit because I have him at number 4, but
You're fine.
The reason I put the 49ers ahead of the team like the Dolphins is because between George Kittle and Deebo Samuel, I think you have a legitimate argument for each one of those guys to say he is the best at his position. I think you could say Deebo is the best wide receiver in football. You could say George Kittle is the best tight end in football. When it comes to Miami, I think you can make that argument about Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I don't think I can quite say that about Jalen Waddle just yet. I can't say he's better than Jamar Chase. I can't say he's better than Justin Jefferson when it comes to wide receivers. I can't say he's better than some of the established guys that are on this list. Guys like Michael Thomas, guys like Devontae Adams. I can't say he's better than those guys yet. So to me, for the Dolphins, I have one of the best wide receivers, and then I have another guy who's like ascending and on his way there, but isn't there yet. So for me, that's why I put the 49ers just a little bit ahead.
I get it. Who you have number 5, man?
Number 5, like you.
Hey, Ian, how's it going, man? I'll get your comment in a second.
Number 5 for me, just like you, the Minnesota Vikings. We know exactly where to put them. They have all these weapons and yet somehow don't make the playoffs. Drew, what's going on when you have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and then Dalvin Cook? Two guys, Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. You could say they're the best player at their position in my book. You could make that argument.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen, just to shave off of
2 years ago, could have said the exact same thing.
Exactly. And now he's not quite there. He's getting a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth. We talk about top-heavy. The Vikings are top-heavy.
Yeah, they are very
top-heavy. If something happens to one of these guys, they're in some trouble.
Ian says Facebook doesn't tell him that we're on. I filed a complaint with management. Thank you for filing that complaint. Man, Tuesdays, 4:30 Central Time. What time zone?
Central Time, yeah.
We'll try to be on as close as we can to 4:30. Sometimes we have technical issues. Sometimes
5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central.
Sometimes we have personal issues, but we'll try our best to be on. Definitely check out our other videos when we post them. But, Ian, we're glad you're here.
Yep. We'll call up Zuckerberg and let him know that something's going wrong with that.
All you got to do is push 1 and dial on mine, and you get him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, with the Vikings, man. Dalvin Cook, to me, and I said this, I think when we started this podcast, I think Dalvin Cook got drafted. And I stood on this podcast and I said, you wait, this guy could be one of the best running backs in this league. And I think you could have that argument. And I think the reason he isn't the number one is because he has such great talent at receiving that the team doesn't have to rely on Dalvin Cook.
I don't want to be that guy, but I think I told you about Dalvin Cook because he fell to the second round because of a domestic assault abuse sort of kind of allegation that he had at Florida State. I don't want to play this game. We were both in on it.
You just try to steal my thunder.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Who's the college guy around here, Drew? I'm just saying. I've been all in on Dalvin Cook from day one, and you have too. Right? We both have. As a show, we've loved this guy from day one, and he's lived up to the expectation.
He doesn't play on teams like, and this is no disrespect, like the Colts or the Ravens or the Titans, where it's like run.
See, I think he could be that guy. I mean, they run a lot in Minnesota too, or they did with Zimmer.
I'm just saying. He hasn't. You can't even really say that. You can't even really say that about Zimmer, dude. There's a reason why Cousins had to be there. They needed a quarterback to throw the ball. They wanted to throw the ball.
Yeah, and let's not forget Teddy had his knee injury, and it wasn't. I mean, they were without a quarterback. So when one comes up, once upon a time when a quarterback came up in free agency before this offseason, you did whatever it took to get him, and that's what they did.
They did,
and they still are. When you look at that extension they've signed with him to make him like one of the highest paid quarterbacks, they still believe in Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
The question is, do we? I don't know.
Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and I'm even going to throw Irv Smith, and I've knocked his name around not being that great. I'm going to throw them in there. When you can have two top wide receivers and a somewhat
top 3, top 4, top 5 running back, how far does Dalvin fall?
He's not out of top 3, in my opinion. You got Henry, you got Jonathan, and then you probably got Cook. I mean, I know you got Kamara. I know you have that, but Kamara's not. You don't have Kamara without a splash of a second running back.
I think Cook is a little bit more versatile. I think you can give it to him to run between the tackles, and he's gonna get you better results than Kamara can. I think Kamara's a better receiver, but only by 100%. A little bit. But only by a little bit. Like, he's better, but not like Dalvin Cook can't do it.
100% he's better. Yeah, 100% he's better. But you don't have Alvin Kamara, and nobody names after Alvin Kamara. Mm. There's a reason why Mark Ingram is back in the Saints uniform.
Sure. When you have better... I mean, the Vikings have Alexander Madison. You just don't get to see him when Dalvin Cook is healthy.
Because you don't need him.
Exactly.
Who do you got number 4?
I already talked about the 49ers. I already like this team. I like what they have all around. I agree with you. I still think they're also a little top-heavy when it comes to the top guys they have. But when you have two positions that you can say they might be the best in football, and it's tight end and receiver, and then it doesn't almost matter who the running back is. I like Elijah Mitchell. Maybe a little bit lower on him than you are, because I think just about any any running back can look good in this offense. They have two of the best guys, period, any week when you put them out there. And that's why you've been able to take a guy like Jimmy G that's somewhere between average to below average and go to the NFC Championship like all the time. Except for the years where everybody gets hurt. That seems to be like they are injury bit.
It's exactly what you said. It's top heavy, and when the team gets hurt, they're not as good as they should be. And number 4, I actually had the Eagles, and it's literally the opposite of what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. I think that this team has great position players in the spots that you want them to, but if they do get hurt, like if Miles Sanders gets hurt, you got Bart Scott?
Boston Scott.
What?
Boston Scott.
I knew I was saying it wrong. You have Boston Scott put in place with them. You got A.J. Brown. If A.J. Brown goes down, I think Devontae Smith, I'm a little bit higher on him than you are. I think he can step into that role number 1. You got tons of other players there, and you got Dallas Goedert, who, in my opinion, has proven a great tight end in this league. It's just a matter of time before these other guys that are just high up there that maybe retire. We talk about Dallas Goedert being one of the best tight ends in this league. I think this team is littered with offensive weapons. They spent tons of top first-round, second-round picks to put people in these positions. This is one of those teams where it's like, again, if they get hurt, you have someone stepping in place where it's like, we're going to be okay.
Not a big drop-off, but I do think the ceiling hasn't been reached. I think these guys have it, and that's the thing. I was in on Jalen Reagor, fell for that trap. He hasn't really kind of worked out the way that they've wanted to. I fell for Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, if you go back and watch him catch some touchdowns at Stanford in the end zone, it looks like a guy dunking a basketball going up there to get the football. And then I was all in on Devontae Smith, and as good as he wasn't a bad player. He just had more of an average rookie season compared to everybody else. He had 800 and some yards, like 830, I believe. So when you compare him to Jalen Waddle and what they got in Cincinnati out of Jamar Chase, doesn't line up pound for pound when you talk about those 3 guys were the guys. Now, I think a question needs to be asked about Philadelphia, because when you keep taking these guys that look like they're going to be good and then none of them seem to live up to that, do you look in the mirror and be like, are we doing something wrong here?
Possibility.
I do think that is a big chunk of it.
When you bring up the other players like Jamar Chase and other players that you brought up that are a lot better, I know I'm reaching here, but if the draft happened and you could pick anyone you want, and you get the first player gets Jerry Rice, the second player gets Randy Moss, and then you get Terrell Owens, or if you get Marvin Harrison, are you really going to complain that you didn't get the top 2 receivers?
I am when Jalen Waddle had 1,200 yards. Jamar Chase had what? Remind me, 1,350.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
that 800.
I'm not saying that Chase is not better. I'm not saying that Waddle's not better. But when you get the 3rd best receiver in this draft,
if you know he's a hit, yeah. Especially
I think
when
it's
you
okay.
spent those picks. Yeah. And here's the thing.
He also had Hurts throwing him the ball.
I thought we liked Jalen Hurts.
We do. We do. But he's got a lot to prove.
He does.
And he has no reason not to be better.
Sure, and I agree. Quarterback is definitely part of it. Obviously, Joe Burrow was great. But then again, you're talking about Jacoby Brissett and Tua Tagovailoa in Miami throwing the ball to Jalen Waddle, and he put up 1,200 yards. That excuse wasn't there for him. He produced anyway. Now, you could say utilization, because Miami was like, at one point was like, we're just going to throw him the ball 15 times every game. And it kind of worked, but they throw it to him like 3 yards away from the line of scrimmage and said, do something with it. So like that was a hard 1,150 yards. That it wasn't like, hey, go run deep and we'll drop a 60-yard bomb once you beat the safety. It was, here's the ball 3 yards from the line of scrimmage. There's 11 guys trying to kill you now. Good luck.
I really liked Smith coming out of the draft
and I still do.
I know you do.
Don't take this as slander because 800 yards out of a rookie is a good season.
And what I like about it now is he didn't have to be number one.
Right.
A.J. Brown's number one.
Right. I agree with you.
Develop this young man. Teach him how to play in the NFL. Don't get down that people like Jake over here tells you that Waddle and Chase are just not as good as those two. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Don't try to keep up with the Joneses, right? Don't worry about the other guys who are drafted.
Exactly.
Worry about your game.
Exactly.
Let's talk about number 3. For me, it's the Raiders. And this might be a little blasphemous for me to say. We got everyone in the AFC West except the Chiefs on this list.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
The Raiders, to me, though, when you look at what they've put together, and I hate the offensive line, but this isn't the offensive line podcast. Nobody watches that one. Nobody cares about the hog mollies. Nobody cares about who's tougher than who.
I mean, I'd have fun listening to it.
We're here to talk about the exciting stuff, which is the weapons, and that's exactly what they have out there in Vegas, not L.A. I tried to say in Oakland, and I was like, that's not right. They're in Las Vegas. That's right. Devontae Adams coming in.
Yeah.
Can it be understated? This guy was the Packers' offense when you talk about him getting like 55% of the targets in Green Bay.
It's only understated because of his contract.
And that is a downside. But, again, when you talk about having him on the team and you talk about having Darren Waller on the team still and you talk about Hunter Renfrow that's now under a new contract, it's almost worth it already. Even regardless of how it turns out, like this gamble is worth it. Worth the picks, worth the money, as long as we put ourselves in a position to now challenge for a Super Bowl. And they might be a long shot at it. They might be a dark horse at it. But to me, the Raiders went from, hey, how the heck did you guys make the playoffs, to this team legitimately could challenge for the Super Bowl if they get hot week 16.
Yeah. I actually have them higher than number 3, which is crazy being a Chiefs fan. At number 3, I actually have the Miami Dolphins. I am higher than you. I actually really like everything they've done, and it's not just going out and getting Tyreek. It's also drafting. It's also paying attention to free agency and bringing in multiple running backs to run your offense. When you look at Chase Edmonds and I just blanked down his name. I have it in front of me. Anyways, you have these running backs put in Miami. I think either of them work for you. Raheem
Mostert.
Mostert. God, yeah. I wanted to say that name so wrong. Mostert. When you have these two guys, I think either one's going to be a 1-2 punch for you. If not, it's just a 1. I don't think they're going to blow the page off of the stat block where you're like, these guys are the best running backs in the league. But I do like the 1-2. I do like if one goes down, you still have one to come and take its place. Then you go straight into the receiving core when you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Maybe Jalen Waddle's not one of the best receivers right now in the league, but a couple years down the road, he might be one of the best in the league.
He's on his way. 1,150 yards as a rookie.
Sign me up. It's a great outing. Tyreek, he blows the defenses up with his speed. When everyone saw you put two put two safeties high, it messes up the Chiefs' offense. Guess what they did? They threw the ball underneath the Tyreek, and he still broke over 1,000 yards for receiving. This guy is a weapon that you can put with any quarterback in this league, and it is deadly.
And the way these guys run, both between Waddle and Tyreek, you better be playing quarters. There better be 4 guys back there.
Yeah, if
you
keep
2 safeties back there, they're going to run a crosser on you, and you're done.
And then you get my boy Mike Gesicki. I said his name wrong. It doesn't matter.
Gesicki.
Yes,
that's right.
I promise I know how to say these names. I just say it wrong. Anyways, I love this tight end. I think he is one of the best tight ends in the league. He just has too many other great ones there in front of him. When George Kittle, Travis Kelce, even Darren Waller decided to call it quits, we're going to be talking about him being one of the best tight ends in the league at the time.
Number 2, for me, Cincinnati. Honestly, when you talk about Jamar Chase, you talk about T. Higgins, you talk about Tyler Boyd, I think there might be a bit of an overstatement of how good these guys are. I think they're all fantastic, but because they went to the Super Bowl, I think we're willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, next year's going to be a lot better. I don't know how it's going to get much better than last year. I mean, it was great. They are very solid at wide receiver, but with C.J. Uzomah leaving for the Jets, I think they brought in, Hayden Hurst to play tight end, which perennial disappointing guy. Came out old at the draft at like 25 or 26.
I like how we call that old.
I think it's vertigo or something like that. He has some sort of illness that's held him back in his career a little bit. One of those things that was holding back his draft stock a little bit and saw him fall all the way down to like 29 or 30 for the Ravens. This offense, though, you talk about Joe Mixon being a solid running back. I don't know that I put him in the top end like we thought he could be when he came out of college. We thought he might have been a top 5, top 7 guy. Hasn't quite lived up to that, but you're still probably talking about a top 10 running back. He's a guy that, is established in the league. He's solid. He's good at what he does. And then you have 3 quality wide receivers to go on top of it. And then Jamar Chase that is, again, top 5, top 7. And you get into debate territory when you talk about how good Jamar Chase is compared to the other top wide receivers in football. The fact that all those 3 guys are returning and they have a guy like Joe Mixon, to me, they're the team to beat. There's a reason they made the Super Bowl. It isn't just because of the defense, even though I talked about it before. It was also because they were able to throw so well.
I actually have the Raiders at number 2. You look at Josh Jacobs. You look at the addition of Devontae Adams. You get excited about that receiver coming in. But I think when you look at Hunter Renfrow and you look how great of a player he was last year for the Raiders, he is so underpaid in this new contract that he got. If he went anywhere else, he would have got paid more money.
Right.
He wanted to be a Raider, and as Raiders fans, you should be excited about that. You got a guy who could be getting paid a lot more, is staying with you, and then you got Darren Waller. Darren Waller is obviously, we can all speak his joys and highs, and you know his backstory where like he didn't work out, and then he became a Raider, and he just flourished out of nowhere. When you look at this team, you go, "Where's the issue on the weapons?" There isn't one. There really isn't one. If Jacobs go down, you got Kenyon Drake. And I'm not saying Kenyon Drake is as good as Josh Jacobs, but I would be okay with Kenyon Drake for a couple of weeks if Josh Jacobs went down.
The only complaint I think I have about the Raiders is their outside number 2 wide receiver, because I love Hunter Renfrow, but he kills people from the slot. Devontae Adams can play anywhere you want him to, and he'll win no matter what. I don't know that they have that number 2 outside pure
I was
guy.
trying to take Devontae Adams out of it because that's what you hyped on.
Right.
I think when you have Devontae Adams and Packers approved it, you don't really need a number 2 receiver.
I do agree with that. But what if Devontae Adams, Lord forbid, gets hurt? All of a sudden,
that is the issue of paying a 30-some-year-old man
$30-some million.
$30-some million. So that's the issue.
Number 1, Drew. For me, it's the Saints. I know we talked about them before. You had them way down at number 8. Was that 9?
Yeah.
No respect for these guys.
8.
They've been so bad for so long. And then you talk about Michael Thomas coming back. You talk about a first-round draft pick and Chris Olave coming in to play the 3rd wide receiver. You have Jarvis Landry, who's going to eat up the middle of the field just like Michael Thomas will. And then on top of that, you throw Alvin Kamara in there. And you even have multiple quarterbacks. You can play
Taysom
Hill at tight end if you need to try to trick teams or try to do a little bit of tricky stuff, whatever you want to do. I think when you talk about with how good Michael Thomas was, I think time has made us forget how dominant this guy was. He was breaking records for numbers of receptions every year. Jarvis Landry was on that track when he was in Miami. It seems like almost everybody that escapes Cleveland and escapes Baker Mayfield gets better. So if we're getting that better version of Jarvis Landry again, if we're getting that better version of Michael Thomas, I know I'm saying the word if a lot. That does factor into this a little bit. But I'm trying to stay on the sunny side of things here, Drew.
Wow.
All right? I'm changing it up. If Alvin Kamara comes back from injury
it's that shirt you're wearing, man.
It is. And if Chris Olave is as good as we thought he could be coming out of the draft, you now have just dominance all over the field when it comes to catching the football. The only thing is, are they going to let Jameis Winston throw the ball that many times? But that didn't go into this exercise.
Nathan, good to see you, man. Ian,
Steelers didn't make it either of our lists, and I thought about it, Drew. I thought about it. I like James Washington.
I do. I like
Deontay Johnson. James Washington's gone.
I know what you meant.
Liked him
I knew what you
before.
meant. I like Johnson. Gone. I like Claypool, and I like Najee Harris.
And Freiermuth, I think we can say, for a rookie tight end. Good start. Solid start.
I like him.
But they have a bunch of solid. They don't have like a bunch of like, this guy's better than everybody.
Yeah.
Unless you listen to Chase Claypool on that, whichever, I think it was the Pac-Man Jones podcast where he went on there and said he's a top 3 wide receiver. I don't see it yet. Don't see it
Ian
yet.
says, you disappoint me. I need a drink. I get it now. You're making me drink and spend more money at this bar.
You're on to us.
He figured it out.
That's why we have the Lions at number 0. Better than ever. They're not. Not yet.
My number 1 is the Cincinnati Bengals weapons. I cannot speak more about how important it is to have a number 1, a number 2, a number 3 receiver that legitimately might go somewhere else and be the number 1 receiver in another place. I know Boyd is kind of a stretch on it, but you threw him over there at like Jacksonville. Good possibility that's number 1
He might
receiver.
be their best if he's not their number 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good possibility. But when you look at Higgins and you look at Chase, and I'm a Higgins guy. I actually really like Higgins. I think Higgins doesn't get as much limelight as he deserves. And it's because when you look at a rookie like Chase jump in a league and he does the amazing catches and the numbers, it's hard not to go,
Right.
holy crap, that Chase guy's amazing. T. Higgins is, in my opinion, just as good. And you literally have a number one, number two that could be a number one anywhere else in this league. And you throw a good running back, maybe possibly scratching the part of being great running back in Joe Mixon. This is weapons that you go, you don't need a tight end. Because you have enough there that can create any offense to be
I'd
a powerhouse.
argue that's what we got out of C.J. Uzomah, too.
Right.
Historically, not that great of a tight end. All of a sudden, last year, lights it up when you had these other guys around you. Hayden Hurst might be that guy this year.
He might be.
So I agree with you on that. I definitely do. The only reason I have the Saints ahead of him is because as much as I like everybody else, I just remember what Jarvis Landry was. I remember what Michael Thomas was. And I'm just hoping that, like, hey, these guys coming back, freed now of other things. It wasn't like we saw them bad in the Saints. We saw them bad in other places.
Is the talk on Michael Thomas that he might not be ready for week one?
I mean, it could be. At this point, I'm done predicting. I just heard he's playing this year. That's all I care about.
I'm just saying, what I've heard so far and what I read is he might not be ready for week one.
Yeah, and I've heard that too.
And that right there makes the Saints fall.
I could see it. But if they get them all healthy, if they're really good on paper.
I said it. Next year I'll be like, Saints are number 2.
That's right. All right, why don't we move into another segment? Drew, we're going to play a game, man. We're going to play buy or sell really quick. I'm going to start throwing some stuff out there.
I will. I'm willing to do that. It sounds great, but I do want to get to Nathan's comment. He
Go
goes,
ahead.
Higgins is good, but he is no Jamar Chase.
Cheers.
I
didn't want to call you out on that.
No.
I
don't care.
There are tiers to these things.
I get it.
There's tiers to these things.
Uh-huh.
And Jamar Chase is in almost a tier of his own. There's a few guys up there with him. Devontae Adams is up there with him. T. Higgins isn't up there with him.
All right, we'll see.
And I'm a T. Higgins guy, okay?
We'll
Let me
see.
just say, I was huge on that pick. When they got
We'll
him in the
see.
second round, I was like, man, they just pulled off a heist.
We'll see.
There's a reason they said at number 5, we cannot wait. We're taking this guy, Jamar Chase.
Maybe he is, but it's 1 year. T. Higgins is going into his 3rd year, and in my opinion, T. Higgins has been doing it longer, and I don't see why. Is T. Higgins a over-the-top, break-it wide receiver? No, he isn't. But you know what? Neither was Marvin Harris. Neither was really Jerry Rice.
Neither's Michael Thomas.
Neither was Michael Thomas.
Right.
And you talk to them about being some of the best receivers of all time. Jamar Chase, in my opinion, could be there, but Jamar Chase, because of what he expects with his speed and stuff like that, his career could be very short. T. Higgins, in my opinion, has a longer career.
Okay.
And that's not knocking Chase, because Chase is so dominant. I watched him literally beat my team single-handedly in the regular season and in the playoffs. So I can't sit there and knock him. I just like T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins is just as good.
Ian goes on to say he says Chase will have a sophomore slump. Teams have film on him now. I don't know. If what Drew says is true and T. Higgins is that good, I think you're almost like immune to that sophomore slump, because as soon as you start to fall off in your production, T. Higgins will be the guy lighting it up. Or it'll be Boyd, or it'll be Joe Mixon catching the ball in the backfield. They have enough weapons that this is the reason they're both like at the very top of our list.
I mean, you can literally say that about Justin Jefferson, where it's like he had so much help because he had Adam Thielen on the other side of the ball.
Sure. I agree. Well, let's move into buy or sell really quick. I'm going to read out a statement, and you're going to tell me whether you buy into it or whether it's time to sell that narrative down the river, Drew, because we're not buying into it at all.
It was so hard not to read your notes and know what these already are before this, so I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Number 1, all 4 AFC West teams will be in the playoff hunt by Week 16.
Bye.
All 4?
All 4. Yes. I think they're all good enough to make it happen.
Is there one of them that you think, who's most likely to not be there?
Historically, the Chargers.
Okay. We're just in front of the Chargers, like, how did you screw this up season?
I mean, historically,
if it's going to happen, yeah. Okay, we'll move on to number 2 here.
Ian says, sell, no Denver. Man, I'm telling you, dude, Russell Wilson is going to show some people up.
He's off the chain now, right? This is his team in Denver, it feels like.
Yeah, and they're not going to, I'm not going to say much more.
Okay, fair enough. Number 2, Tua Tagovailoa. Tua, you all know him. You all love him, out of Miami. Will turn his career around with these weapons and will be next year's Dolphins starter.
Sell. And the only reason I'm going to sell is I don't think Miami is sold on Tua.
Eddie's selling the Raiders out of the last one. And I'm kind of with Eddie. I think if there's a team that stumbles, I think it'll be the Raiders with their offensive and defensive lines. But going back to the Tua thing, Really? You don't think that you don't think that he is the problem in Miami then, right? Because they've done a little bit. They brought in Connor Williams.
No, I don't think he is the issue. I think it's Miami's not sold on him. Okay. So when you're talking about, you asked me, does he do enough? It would have to be like MVP status for him to stay there.
To get another year? Just one more year to look?
What if
this is year 3 too, right? I think it
what
is.
if you can? What if I don't know?
Yeah,
what
this will be year 3 for him.
What if you can get like Ryan Tannehill, bring him back?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if one of those caliber quarterbacks comes up, I'm gonna have a very difficult decision to make up. Whether it's maybe even a guy like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, what if
mixed. Maybe it's Derek Carr, even though I know it's not gonna happen. He just re-signed his contract, whatever. They've been talking about getting rid of Derek Carr forever. But if that caliber quarterback came up, it would have to be maybe just one step short of MVP season, where you're like, man, Tua put it together once we put the receivers there.
The only reason I say that is because I haven't seen enough out of Miami being like, this is our guy.
Nathan goes on to say Miami's overrated. I don't know. I will say I think they're going to have some problems in the offensive line still, but they've brought in 2 good offensive linemen, and usually high tide raises all boats. Like, if you start adding pieces to an offensive line, things get better, but they still have some weakness there. I think they're going to struggle running the ball, but you can't tell me they're going to if their receivers stay healthy. You cannot tell me they're not going to have at least a semi-competent offense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle out on the field. If that's the case, it's Tua, get his butt out of there. He's not a starter anymore at that point.
Even the worst teams in the NFL, like the Texans or the Jaguars, have games where it's like, there you go.
Yeah.
And they don't have the players that Miami has.
Right.
These are NFL caliber players, regardless if we think they're great or not. These guys are going to play well. Tua is going to play well. If Tua is not going to play well, Tua would be gone.
Ian also goes on to say Wentz to Miami next year. It would be on brand now that he seems to be on a new team every season. Nathan also says F Tyreek Hill. All right.
Well, we know how you feel.
I may not like Tyreek Hill as a person. I think he might be probably guilty of some child abuse, like we talked about a couple seasons ago. But you can't argue with the fact that he is a dominant wide receiver in football, in my opinion. When he goes out there, defenses have to back up.
Innocent until proven guilty, my friend.
I suppose you're right. I'm not a DA. But we would have probably pressed some charges. That's all I'm saying if I was. Going forward, the number 3 here, Drew, the AFC is much better than the NFC.
Oh,
and will finish with better records than they do.
Oh, God. Bye. I would – I'm mortgaging my house. Yeah, absolutely. The AFC is just littered with elite talent. If
they're drowning in quarterbacks out
If
here.
Aaron Rodgers left the NFC, could you imagine if he went to the AFC?
It would just be a free walk for Tom Brady into the Super Bowl.
It would
on that
be.
side, right? I mean, who else is going to beat him?
I guess the Rams.
Maybe Jimmy G, right? Because they always seem like they're in the mix.
The Rams, I mean. But I would say they have more talent now, and they have more future talent as well.
Okay, and Ian's right along with you. He says, "Buy Eddie." Goes on to say, "Buy the AFC by far." I'm almost to the point, and here I go weighing in on my own question, but I'm almost to the point where I feel like it's one of those talking points that, yes, I do believe the AFC is better, but are we overhyping it a little bit? Because everybody, everywhere down the line says the AFC is just going to maul the NFC, and it seems like every time you have that sure thing, they wind up coming up short. Appreciate that. They wind up coming up, like, they fall short of what expectations are. And I still think there are teams in the AFC that have their question marks, the whole AFC South. Teams like the Dolphins, teams like the Patriots, teams that I think we're just assuming are going to be as good year in and year out as they were last year. I think there is a little bit of question marks for the AFC. That's why I brought it up as a question. I think they're going to be better. How much, though? I don't know. I think we're overselling a little bit. And when it's all said and done, there's going to be a few surprises out of the NFC. And there'll be a few disappointments out of the AFC that kind of narrows the gap between the two.
I mean, we did have a Super Bowl winner out of the NFC last year in the LA Rams. So,
right.
So obviously they're the ones holding the championship on their side.
They still have the Cardinals. They still have the 49ers. They still have teams that didn't go like the Bucs.
The
Saints look like they're better.
I'm going to say this. This is what I'm going to say, okay? And Cincinnati Bengals fans might go for my throat after I tell them this. If it wasn't the Bengals in the Super Bowl, I don't think the Rams would have won. And it was a great Super Bowl. I think the Bengals played really well.
I think the Titans and the Chiefs could have beat them.
That's exactly my point I was just about to say. If you would have thrown the Titans in there, you had thrown the Chiefs in there.
I think the Bills would have beat them too.
I even think the Bills would have beat them.
It wouldn't have been the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders would have beat them. But to be honest, I was surprised they made it.
Maybe this year they will. Maybe this year they will. Yeah?
Maybe this year, but last year I don't think so, Drew.
Nathan says, "Who do you got in the AP and Le'Veon Bell boxing match?" He says he likes AP himself.
think AP's got a better work ethic.
I think it's.
I think if it goes 7 rounds, I think AP's the guy.
I think it actually might be worth watching. Is what I think.
Yeah.
I don't know who I have on either side, but I think it's gonna be worth watching.
I think the real loser is all of us. That boxing has basically become just like this random, just celebrity death match that we want to watch. Like, when was the last great boxing matchup you saw? Pacquiao and Mayweather.
I mean, true boxing match. Well, no, you got
like actual boxers.
You got Wilder and
Fury and Wilder.
Yeah, Fury and Wilder.
Okay, all right. I stand corrected, but even that I don't think carried the same hype as like the Pacquiao Mayweather fight.
No,
I just feel like boxing has fallen off.
It doesn't carry the same pact, and Fury might be one of the best heavyweights of all time.
One of, yeah.
He might be, but he doesn't carry like the demeanor of like a Mike Tyson back in the day. You know, or any of the elite heavyweights.
Ty says, it's been a while, guys. Looking good. Always looking good, man. You are too. Appreciate that. He goes on to say the Rams are going back-to-back, and it's not even a discussion. No Super Bowl hangover out there in L.A.? I think there might be a bit of a Super Bowl hangover.
I think they got better.
I do at wide receiver. I think there's some other questions like Noteboom coming in to play tackle. I think just the departure of other guys.
I think they got better.
I don't know, man. I don't get me wrong. I want to agree with you because I love Allen Robinson. I think the rest of the team might. Like when they brought in a quarterback.
I don't think they're done. They're not done. The way the Rams have been playing chess pieces, the way they've been playing chess, they move these pieces around so much throughout the whole entire season. Mm-hmm. I think they are not done moving, and I think that it's just like the Levon Miller move. You know. That was not early in the season. They did that later on.
Right.
I think
it's right at the trade deadline.
It's going to be one of these teams that they've always been where it's like they're going to find that veteran out there that just fits the piece you want to fit. And this is what the Rams have done for about the last 5 years.
We'll see. I think it's just like trying to hold a ball of sand in your hand. And they managed to get the Super Bowl this year. But it feels like with the way they're paying guys and the way everything's going that eventually this thing is going to start to crumble. Let's not forget the Rams were a 4 seed. They didn't dominate the NFC. Now, they might wind up a little bit better this year because I think some of the talent has left, like we were talking about. But they were still a 4 seed.
Yeah, but you're talking about
they were a threat.
You're talking about the Packers that play the Bears and the Lions twice each.
Well, guess who they're playing again?
The Lions and the Bears each.
And you get the Seahawks now.
I mean, it's
the Rams. And then they still wind up.
We all talked last year that the NFC West, if I can remember, was one of the best divisions in the league. So the fact that they got a 4 seed out of one of the best divisions last year, I mean, that's pretty high remarks.
I just think you're going to have that like human nature of when you win something, you tend to take your foot off the gas a little bit. And in the NFL, the minute you take your foot off the gas, there's a reason there's a Super Bowl hangover.
Absolutely.
For every team. And I think the Rams are going to have to go through it a little bit. I think they'll be good. I'm not putting any money down on the repeat just yet, even though I like Stafford.
I like Ian's comment here. He says the AFC is a better conference, but they also have the weakest links.
Yeah, they have the Jaguars and Texans. You're right.
Yeah, but they.
Sorry, Jags and Texans.
Yeah,
man.
but they
have the Titans too.
They also have the NFC East. Right?
Wait, didn't we win the NFC last year?
God, I'm so bad at this. What conference is the Cowboys, Eagles, and
the NFC East?
East. Okay, that's that right. Yeah. They also have the NFC East. I guess our NFC East is the AFC South. I guess.
Guess so, but okay, but the Eagles are getting better. The Cowboys are getting better. The Commanders now
you can say the Colts are getting better. The Titans are not.
And it's statistically impossible for the Texans and Jaguars to not get better when you look at the way they've done. So they're getting better.
They're getting better, right? By one slow brick at a time.
We'll see. The Jags might be okay, I think, with what they've bought. The Texans, next year, is where they're really going to make their moves. A couple more here that I want to read because there were a couple points. Eddie goes on to say the UFC has replaced boxing 1,000,000%.
Oh, yeah.
But still, as great as the UFC is, wrestling has almost overtaken the UFC. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu, to where the ground game is king. I miss the days where you could just watch guys go pound for pound, standing up. Maybe I just need to start watching kickboxing more. I miss the days of striking. I mean, to me, it's the more interesting side of the game. I like jiu-jitsu. It's fine, but sometimes when you're watching a guy lay on another guy for 5 minutes, you're like, all right, fellas, let's get a move on here.
Yeah. It's the UFC to me has so much potential, and I don't think, and I know a lot of people say, what are you talking about? They're already reached their potential. They are, the king of the fighting world. They are.
Right.
I think what hurts them is that you're talking about your prime time players or competitors only have such a short window to compete. When you talk about boxing, because they protect their players with gloves, these guys can go for a long time and be legit. I mean, if Tyson Fury was still fighting the UFC for as long as he's been fighting, I mean, you'd be talking about a guy falling off.
Well, it's less athletic of a game, too. As much as I like boxing, you don't need to be at your athletic peak to be the best boxer.
Right.
The minute you lose, like, the edge in UFC, guys break. Like, they just turn into that guy that you fight because he used to be good, and you need to build your resume.
Right.
Like, UFC, you have to be on the cutting edge. Like, you have to be the man.
How long does your career last?
Exactly. Not forever. And you're 100% right on that. You definitely do not last as long.
And
age like milk.
And I'm going to talk crap about Americans right now, and I'm one of them. We are like goldfish. It's like you need to keep us enticed to have us to keep paying attention to you.
Sure.
There's a reason Tom Brady's going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. It's because he's been able to have a career that long.
I definitely agree with that.
And I know he's not there, but I think about someone like David Carr. David Carr had a career in the Houston Texans that was literally shortened by the fact that they couldn't protect him.
Right.
And I don't think it was because he was a bad quarterback. I think it's because he literally got destroyed.
I think Andrew Luck would be a better comparison because Andrew Luck was good and Derek Carr never got there. It was the Texans' fault. I'm not saying that.
It was the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah.
100%.
I think Andrew Luck is a little bit better of a comparison, but I agree with what you're saying. Longevity is a thing, and that's just something that most guys in the UFC. But when you get that longevity, that's when you can say a guy's truly special in that sport. Anyway, back to buy or sell. Now that we taken the wide
went
path
a huge tantrum there.
Tangent, yes, definitely. Number 4 here, Drew. Buy or sell. Baker Mayfield will start some games this year in Cleveland. You know it had to be on this list. It's been like the story of the offseason as we went from like the most exciting offseason to like the least exciting offseason as soon as the draft ended. But buy or sell, Baker Mayfield starting in Cleveland this year. Doesn't matter why. Will he start?
I'm selling. I'm selling. It's if they wanted him to play, it's not because Deshaun Watson there. They would have said, "Hey, we need you here at camp. We need you to be here and be part of this team and get reps into it." Them saying, "Hey, it's okay that you don't come." There's no way. There's no way he's playing.
Okay, so Jacoby Brissett breaks his hand. Deshaun Watson's out for the year with suspension. You're going to Josh Dobbs? They are, at least. I'm not asking you. I would go to Baker for over that, for whatever.
I would go to Baker before
you hate
Brissett. I would go Baker before then.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if that's what happens, Drew, you're telling me you're going to go Josh Dobbs before you put Baker Mayfield? Do you think that's going to happen? I'm asking. I'm not telling. I'm asking here because I don't know what they're going to do either. I think you're right. I think the bridge is torched.
I think the bridge is torched, too. Baker might not want to play for him. Eddie goes, sell. Baker's going to Seattle, and Ian says, buy. Cleveland will not have Watson. I'm right there with you, but it is the player's choice, too. Yes, it might come with fines.
Serious fines now. Now that the new CBA is kicked in, you don't really get to hold out anymore. Like that is kind of the only time you can realistically do it is when are up.
Guess what?
Franchise tag.
Guess what? He can retire.
Not if he wants those $18 million. He can't.
What does it matter?
It's $18 million. What do you mean? What does it matter?
You want to go to a franchise that don't want you? You can retire. Let Deshaun Watson spend his year in suspension. Deshaun Watson comes back. You can unretire and let the Browns move you on.
These might have been read already. You said, Ian says that he's going to buy. Cleveland will not have Deshaun Watson. He also says Jacoby Brissett will be out by week 6. I think if you can say one thing about Jacoby Brissett, one of his redeeming factors is he's available. And I think that's why he's made this kind of career out of being that $5 to $6 to $7 million backup. And even the Colts at one point gave him the reins and said, can you be the starter? I think the reason he has had that longevity is because he's always healthy. And I'm not saying he's going to get hurt. I think he's going to be one of those guys that if he turns into a punching bag for Cleveland while they wait for Deshaun Watson to get off suspension, that's what they'll do. Yeah. So I'm with you on the selling. I don't think Mayfield's going to play this year, at least not in the Browns uniform. I don't know that he'll get traded to Seattle because, Eddie, we've kind of talked about this a few times in the past, but why, if you're Seattle, would you trade for Baker Mayfield to increase your draft pick when you could go draft a quarterback next year? Because think about it. The Panthers fell into this trap with Sam Darnold. They had to pay him $18 million right away. They had to take his 5th-year option. And then now you're kind of faced with the fact, if he was good, we now have to give him a huge contract. Why not draft a guy and try to get those cheap years where we can kind of improve the team?
The reason is because Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold.
Okay, but is Baker Mayfield worth $40 million a year? $38 million a year? Because that's the situation you're taking and putting yourself in when you trade for him.
Maybe in Seattle he is.
I disagree. I don't think so. I don't think we've seen enough out of what he's done because, let's face it, when he went to Cleveland, when he was drafted there, they were not a good team. But years 3 and 4, and I know he got hurt year 4 with the shoulder, they had a better team, and he did not live up to the expectation to the point where you want to pay that guy $35 million.
He went to an AFC Championship game.
Yes,
and lost to the Super Bowl championship.
There's 21 other guys in the field. There's 21 other guys in the field. This isn't the NBA. It's not like LeBron where you put him on the team and go to the final.
That's literally saying that a quarterback doesn't matter then. You know the quarterback is the most important position on the field. So when you talk about a team that took, or a quarterback that took his team to the AFC Championship, it was on his shoulders and his legs that made that happen.
Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Eli Manning won 2.
Joe Flacco had one of the best postseasons to win that Super Bowl.
Yeah, except for that pass he threw to Champ Bailey that was like the lamest pop fly you've ever seen, and Champ Bailey lost it in the sun or something. I don't even know what happened there. Champ Bailey, Hall of Fame cornerback.
Even Tom Brady
did not intercept
Tom Brady has some terrible interceptions.
Yeah, not like that.
No,
I've never seen Tom Brady throw the ball. I've seen Patrick Mahomes do it, though, in that Washington game where he, like, popped the ball up like crazy. Never seen Brady do that.
You know what? You just keep talking.
I just got to go watch the film.
Next on Sports Around the Bar.
Homicide.
Ian
goes on to say, Cleveland will be desperate for a quarterback. That front office is horrible. I don't think they're loyal, but you have to give Andrew Berry a little bit of credit for what he's done to rebuild this team. Like, how bad Cleveland's been bad for 20 years. The dude comes in and say what you want about the roster that Drew pretends doesn't exist, but they are a good roster.
I don't ignore it. Hey, actually,
thank you, Ian. Trent Dilfer has a ring. Is Trent Dilfer the greatest quarterback
I will
ever
get to
played?
that comment. First comment is Browns. I actually am 12th on my list of weapons, by the way. 12th. Yeah, that's how much I believe.
You like Amari Cooper that much? Huh?
I believe in that.
Me too. I like him, but 12?
I believe in that running back.
Okay.
The running back group is amazing. Anyways, Trent Dilfer does have a ring, and guess what he also has? He has the best defense to ever play in the NFL all time. If we did a list today of best defense of all time.
Not all time.
Yes.
85 Bears?
No. Yeah, 2000 Ravens were way better than 85 Bears.
Way better?
Way better.
I think you're getting your adjectives mixed up here because way better is it. I am Mr. Like the future is better than the past.
It goes 2000 Ravens.
In terms of football?
And then it goes 1985 Bears.
Way better?
Yeah. Wait until we do our defense of all time.
This is sports around the crack pipe, apparently. Because Drew, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, with you over there talking crap about Patrick Mahomes, you almost died.
I didn't talk crap about him, but you got to admit that was a bad interception. You know the one I'm talking about too.
Yeah,
when they were playing Washington.
Trust me, I know.
And like he was getting dragged down to the knees. He was just like, "See ya," just like popped up the ball.
When you make magic happen all the time, and then you don't make it happen.
That is exactly my point. If he was in Detroit, it would be like that all the time. And that's not a knock on Mahomes. That's a knock on Detroit, okay? All right, anyway, number 5, and then we're going to get out of here. Drew, buy or sell here.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, Packers, and Tennessee Titans were smart to move off of their former number 1 wide receivers before they got paid as much as they got paid.
No, I buy that. And the reason I buy that is because you don't know what any player is going to do after they turn 30. I sat here on this show, and I know it's a little bit different, and I said Antonio Brown has a playing style and a body type that this guy could play until he's 36 and still be productive in the NFL. And then he
did not. We got an Amber Alert, apparently. All right.
We'll be out in our cars here in a minute. And when I don't mean to, he obviously had mental issues and his mind broke down. But
I just caught up with that other thing you said. We'll be out there. Okay.
What?
Sorry. I'm going to go suit up like Batman and go out there and stop this thing. Sorry. Continue.
All right. So back to what I was saying. I said Antonio Brown has one of those bodies and playing styles that he can play until he's like 35, 36 and still be productive in the NFL. Will he be elite at that time? No. But he could still play that long. And then when he got paid and he got older, it just seemed to fall off. I think of like other players that have gone to that age where you're like about to pay those guys that elite kind of money, and it just falls off. Mm-hmm. And not that any of these guys, Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill, who was the other team you brought up?
The Titans. So it would be A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown. Doesn't mean that these guys won't be there. They could be that It's kind of smart business to move on from these guys and let these players also get that top money somewhere else.
Right. I agree, because the college football landscape seems to be churning out wide receivers at a higher rate. We are seeing top-level wide receivers come out as rookies, guys like Jamar Chase, guys like Justin Jefferson that are redefining the game right away. Now, could that be a bit of an anomaly? Yes, it could be. But I think when you look at just the tide is rising. There will always be the bust. There will always be the guys that don't work out. But more top-level wide receivers seem to be coming out. It seems to be much more of a common thing to show up in college football. So the fact that you're moving off the $30 million man to bring in a 5-year contract that's going to be significantly cheaper, I think every one of those teams was smart in not paying their guy $30 million, because you have to look at percentages. $30 million out of 185 or whatever. The cap's up to 200 now. It was 185 last year. But it's like $200 million cap. To give a guy $30 million, you're going to have to start pinching pennies elsewhere. And I think these teams were smart enough to get out in front of that and say, listen, we'll just start replacing through the draft, because we've seen so many of these good guys come out.
And you also don't know what you're going to get. That was my point. You don't know what you're going to get. A.J. Brown might have been a little too early. But Tyreek,
I think they should have just told him, well, you're under contract, good luck.
Tyreek and Devontae Adams. And as a Chiefs fan, and Eddie, you know this, and he goes, I'll get to his comment in a second, Chiefs have never paid any of their players that is that elite position outside the quarterback top-tier money. Travis Kelce's underpaid.
Well, Chris Jones. I'll kick back a little bit. Lately, Chris Jones. For D tackles, they paid him $20 million. He's not Aaron Donald, but he's right there.
I'll give you that. Give you that.
Frank Clark, another guy that he was the highest paid non-quarterback for a while. Recently they have started to do it. I will say
Frank Clark does a little bit outside of difference. Frank Clark, we brought in our guys, the guys that we drafted. Fair enough. Have normally not paid them at top tier money.
Okay.
I think of like Brandon Flowers. We did pay like Justin Houston, but when he was looking for his third contract, we let him go. Like, there's some of these players that like you could have.
They did give Marcus Peters the boot before they paid him.
It seems to happen a lot more than the opposite. Eddie says, thoughts on Tyreek saying Tua is more accurate than Patrick. To him, it's laughable.
This is like when you break up with your girlfriend, and then she's like, oh, my new man is just so much better than you. Like, he does all this stuff that...
For some reason, I thought you were going to go so much dirtier than that, and I'm so glad.
No, I'm just... Well, that's what this is. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
When you go through a breakup, and then your girlfriend is like, hey, my new guy is so much better than you ever were. He treats me right, all the rest of the stuff. Receivers are divas. Let's not forget. And divas are like one step away from pop stars, which is one step away from being a woman.
Travis, good to see you. He says, go Rams.
Rams? We allowed to say that? I don't think so.
I don't know. Moving on. Travis, good to see you. He said, go Rams. He says, the Rams are changing the game. How, man? How are they changing it?
Well, I think McVay is changing it a little bit. Like, he's keeping defensive coordinators up and
I would
sleepless.
like to hear Travis's opinion. Did I ask Jake? Jake,
no, you did. All right, I'll be quiet. You guys go ahead.
No, you're right. McVay has absolutely changed the coaching scheme, but I don't think the Rams personally are changing the NFL game, because McVay is as good as he's been. I mean, Kyle Shanahan was kind of doing a year before he was.
And, hey, they're all off that originally the Mike Shanahan tree. They were all in Washington. LaFleur was there. It was also Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. Like, they're all kind of off that other Shanahan
You literally
tree.
have three trees. You have the Shanahan tree, you have the Belichick, and you have the Reed. It's literally just separated from that.
That is true. I mean, it's a copycat league.
It is.
It is 100% a copycat league. And then you have the Titans that signed Mike Vrabel, who is related to none of those guys, and won the AFC. I'm just saying. He played for Belichick. Never coached for him. Not off the Belichick tree. Weird how that works.
He actually coached under Andy Reid.
He was in Houston as like a linebackers coach. That's fair. But he was at Ohio State before that. So it's not the same. Not the same he started before that. He was at Ohio State before that. So I guess you could say he's off the Trestle tree?
No,
when he was there? No, he started as a linebackers coach.
Played in Kansas City.
Uh-huh.
And then he became a coach.
For Ohio State first, I think. We'll have to look it up. Somebody jump up in the Wikipedia article.
History might be wrong. But
I think he went to Kansas City, was his first NFL job, but I think he coached at Ohio State first. That's why the Titans keep drafting all these bad Ohio State guys.
I kind of remember now. He like retired. He played there. He retired, and then he signed to be a coach, and then he didn't play the season or didn't go in the season. He left. I think.
JP also says plus McDaniel from Miami in terms of coaching trees. But anyway, moral of the story. Drew, it's been a great show, man.
It's been.
Had a lot of fun. We're in the off season. We're in the throes of like nobody saying anything. Like I said, we went from like wild west for the first half of the off season where everybody's making all these crazy moves and the NFL was redefining itself to now it seems like everyone's just getting quiet and going to work, which is exactly what you want to see.
It is. So Travis says, screw drafting players and signing stars. I
think that might be where he's going with the Rams, where he's trying to say instead of like you forego your draft picks and just go out and sell them every year, just trade them off and go get an established
that's
NFL
what I was going
player.
with too.
It can work, but it can't work for everybody. Is my point.
I don't have anything. I don't have an argument in the fact that he is speaking true in the sense that that's the Rams' way of moving,
right?
Because I talked about it earlier in this episode, but I don't think you can say that fully because you have to draft. Your guys in the trenches, your guys that are in the practice squad, those are the players you draft, and those are the players that push your elite players, and you can't trade everything away and just have veterans on your team because the cap is real, even though somehow they seem to keep making money and making it work. You just can't do it. You have to draft.
Well, I mean, there's a reason Von Miller left. There's a reason why they've moved on. Obviously, Whitworth retiring actually probably helped them in the grand scheme of things in terms of money. It freed up some money to pay guys like Joseph Noteboom, but they also lost their other cornerback, whose name escapes me right now. I think he went to Jacksonville.
Not right now.
They've lost some talent. Is the moral of the story when it comes to the Ram. Now, is there something to be said about like selling out and going for it? The Rams have traded their picks for years trying to get in these positions, and they've won one Super Bowl. The greatest dynasty in NFL history was made because teams like the Patriots said the opposite was true. We're not paying any free agents, and we're going to accumulate every draft pick we can, and we're going to win by attrition.
And maybe that's what Travis is talking about. He's changing the NFL by saying you go.
I know he's changing the way people are thinking, but the problem is only one team can win the Super Bowl. I think you're going to wind up with 4 or 5 of these teams that are like, man, we sold out and we wrecked our roster and our cap situation and you're trying to win 1 year.
And not this Super Bowl, but the year before that you guys went to. You guys went off of players you drafted. Jared Goff, Todd Gurley. Those are players that you guys drafted and brought in there. It's an interesting conversation. I don't disagree with the fact that that's how the Rams are doing it. I disagree with the fact that that's changing the NFL.
Mitchell goes on to say with the Titans, hopefully someday they get there. Mitchell, get comfortable, man. I feel like we're farther away than we were. I hate to say it. As a Titans fan, get comfortable, buddy. Roger Goodell and the refs, they don't love us. That's all I can say. They don't love us, bro. So you just have to be better than everybody else.
Sooner or later, you guys are not going to be a small market team.
So, yeah, if everyone keeps moving here.
That's what I'm saying.
Drew, by then, there's going to be someone living in your living room.
I am moving out. I'm moving out because traffic alone.
Now, Travis says Goff and Gurley are gone for the Rams. That is right. You're not incorrect. But I can't say they're better. As a whole, I can't say they're better. I like some of the things they've done. I think Odell Beckham leaving, even Robert Woods leaving, I think you're getting a better receiver in a guy like Allen Robinson coming in. I think he's better than those 2 wide receivers. But downgrading from Whitworth to Noteboom, downgrading from Von Miller to whatever they figure out to do at edge rusher, there have been whatever they're going to do at corner, you now have to throw a younger guy into the fire to be that number 2 guy across from Jalen Ramsey. They have had some significant steps back. Now, I got one more comment here real quick.
I want to get into a comment, too. I got 2. First off, Nathan did agree that the Ravens' defense was the best of all time with me, so I'm not...
Yeah, somehow I knew that one was
I'm not completely crazy, and then, I love this. Ian says, and the 78 Steelers is the only team to win a Super Bowl with only players they drafted.
You'll never see that again.
Well,
never.
When did
not in today's
free
NFL.
Agency changed? What year? It was after 78.
Yeah, it was like the 80. I think it was like 86 or something like that. It was a long time ago.
Where that type of
I wasn't alive. You might have been
78.
Not for 78. For when the free
it's like,
agency
dang,
changed.
man, thanks.
I wasn't alive. I wasn't alive, Grandpa.
Yeah, Ian, we're talking about football that will never be the same ever again. Not with these contracts, the union, free agency, and how it's all based. That is long, long gone. Travis says the Ravens defense is the best. I hope he's talking about the 2000 Ravens because that is the team that I'm rooting for. Maybe that should be our next show, man.
1992, I was alive for it, Grandpa.
Who you? All right. First off,
I was barely alive.
First off, little child, I want you to know that I only have a few gray hairs. It's only because I have a daughter.
She's just tearing you up.
She is getting enough stress in my life where I got it. And Travis says, yes, he is talking about the 2000 Ravens. So that is 3 people.
They're not better than the 85 Bears. I wasn't even there for it. They're not better than the 85
No one
Bears.
hears.
I was there for the 2000 Ravens, and it was special, but it was not so special.
No one's agreeing with you.
Here's a great question for you. Who was the quarterback of the 85 Bears? You can remember Trent Dilfer.
McMahon?
Yeah. Greatest quarterback ever.
No, he was not. But
they had quarterback
Walter,
of the Bears history.
They also had Walter Payton, who was obviously one of the best running backs of all time.
Sure. Let's not pretend like...
Are you going to tell me? Do you tell me Jamal Lewis is one of the best running backs of all time?
He was one of the best running backs of that year.
Oh,
of that era, even I would go so far as to say. Although I do say he is a guy that probably got better after he went to prison and got a couple years off.
Oh my God, you're great,
dude. I think you're. This is not the disrespect Jamal Lewis podcast, okay? I mean, the fact that you're saying Jamal Lewis was not a stud is insane to me. He was great.
He had one of the best NFL.
And then he went to prison, and then he was even better.
He had one of the best NFL single games of all time. I think
he had one of the best NFL rejuvenated careers after he got out of jail.
He ran for almost
prison, not jail.
He almost ran 300 yards in one game.
Gray, is it Sony Gray? John Gray, the running back for the Dolphins, was the guy who broke his record. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then immediately the Patriots were like, "You're out of here because you missed practice next week."
Yeah.
You remember that? Yeah, crazy times. Anyway,
thank you, Ian. Appreciate it.
Anyway, when it comes down to it, the game has changed. We've talked about that. Going back to all these defenses, I think the original point was that we're not in the same era where defense could carry the day. I think you're right to a point. But if you can have an average offense and then a killer defense like that's what's carried the Steelers to this point. They made the playoffs last year. I still think it can be done off the back of a defense. It's just now you can't totally neglect the offense. You have to at least be all right.
Travis wants to know, do we think that Gronk will unretire for Brady? No.
I think it'll happen, but I think it'll happen like week 8. I think Gronk is going to be sitting on his couch and he's going to be feeling better and he's going to be watching the Bucs 6-2. And he's gonna be like, you know what? I need to be a part of that.
I thought that was the first year. I thought that the first year that Gronk retired with the Patriots, I was like, oh, Brady will bring him back.
He was still dominant last year, and he did, he did. He came back for Brady,
but he came back for Brady to go to the Bucs. He didn't come back to go to the Patriots.
Sure.
I think Gronk is done.
Well, he's going to do it again. He's going to come back for the Bucs again. They're going to have fun in Tampa Bay winning and beating everybody in the NFC that's so weak. I'm telling you, Gronk is going to heal up.
Sorry, Rams fans and Packer fans.
We'll see.
Vikings fans.
I'm not saying they're going to beat everybody, but you know what I'm saying.
The
moral of the story.
That's literally what you just said.
The moral of the story is you're going to get 4 to 5 weeks into the season. Gronk's going to be sitting on his couch, bored. He's already done filming his commercials and everything. He's going to be feeling better.
He's terrible at them.
It doesn't matter. He's going to be in them.
God,
and the money,
terrible.
The check is going to clear. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
The moral of the story is he's going to be sitting there watching Tom Brady miss Cameron Brate in the end zone. He's going to be like, I would have caught that. And he's going to call him up. He's going to unretire. Like the paper. He's going to fax Roger Goodell by himself because I imagine he has a fax machine in his living room just like we all do.
Travis says they need him late in the year. They do. They're going to need him.
Guess when he'll be back? I'd be willing to make a beer bet. I'm so confident that Gronk is going to return. It won't be before the season starts, but I'm willing to make a beer bet that Gronk will unretire to play with the Buccaneers.
I will take that bet if it's week 10 or later.
No, not even week 10. No, I think it'll be earlier than
that. He'll pull an Eric Weddle kind of thing where he comes in.
Here's the terms I'm giving you. If you want to win a beer, you have to tell me he's not coming out of retirement. You have to tell that to my face that Gronk will not come back when Tampa Bay's having success this year.
No, because I don't know him.
Thank you. All right. Case in point. I'm glad we settled
that.
But
he'll not be back. He'll not be back.
I'll call him. We'll see what he says. Fair enough.
Is he number 2 on your speed dial right after Mark Zuckerberg?
You have Zuck. I have Gronk, number 1 on
Oh,
the
okay.
speed
All right,
dial.
all right.
Zuckerberg's number 3 for me. That's why we don't do so well on Facebook. Ian goes on to say that Gronk will be a great guest coach next year and an announcer for the XFL, as well as a sideline reporter.
What? Okay, I got this. Buy or sell.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield goes to the XFL.
Sell. Why would you? The money's not there.
Maybe.
I mean, the hype
Maybe
would
it
be
is.
great, dude.
Maybe it is.
That would get people to tune into the XFL. But he's not going to do it for the money.
Johnny's going to be there.
He's going to be a starting quarterback next year. Someone
Yeah, he
will be
will.
upset, whether
He will.
it's Tua, that they win 8 games and they boot him, or whatever. Someone is going to, whether it's Wentz in Washington, whether it's Matt Ryan in Indianapolis, someone will be upset and will give him a chance because they can't draft the guy they want in the draft. He's going to be starting next year. He's a starter, right? He's a top 32 guy, so I'm going to sell.
Travis says sells well.
Travis
It was
sells
just,
well.
it was a crazy one. I got another one. This doesn't have anything to do with it. We're going to go into wrestling here.
Okay.
Buy or sell, Vince McMahon stepping away from making executive decisions in wrestling, the WWE. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Good thing or a bad thing?
Well, you have to tell me. Is it good or is it bad? And then I have to buy or sell it. You have to make a statement.
Is it a good thing for him to
It's
take
got to be a statement, no question, Drew.
Dang it.
You got to say, hey, is Roger Goodell stepping away?
No,
Good
Roger
thing for
Goodell.
WWE?
Vince McMahon
Yeah,
stepping away.
Roger Goodell is a good thing stepping away from the NFL. I'm buying that.
Okay, Vince McMahon is a good thing stepping away from the WWE executive decisions.
I'm going to sell. They got here for a reason. That's all I can say.
All right, that's cool. I was
sell.
wondering. XFL,
It's
he's
not a
stepping
hard
away.
sell. It's not like I'm calling my broker up right now, like as soon as the market opens, dump it all.
He's selling. I mean, he's not
Because
selling.
I think
He's
they
stepping
could
away.
replace it. Right.
He's stepping away. I'm assuming he's going to focus on XFL.
I think, he sold his majority of his ownership to
When did
The
he do
Rock,
that?
a year ago.
That's
The Rock
how-
now owns
that's how
the
much I
majority
pay
of it.
attention.
He still owns some of it, I think. So maybe he's going to do other things, but I think also it's a political thing because he's – never mind. This isn't politics around the bar.
Travis says buy.
I'm going to sell. Again, they got where they are because of Vince McMahon.
Yes.
And anytime you have dramatic change at the top of something like that, I think there is a risk that sort of opens up. You had the formula that worked, and now that formula is changing. Anytime you open that up, bad things can happen. Do I think WWE is going to get massively more popular because Vince McMahon is gone? No. No, so that's why I'm selling. I don't see the upside, but I do see the downside. And maybe they keep treading water. Maybe they make the right hire. Everything stays good.
I don't even watch
great.
wrestling. I just wanted to know your opinion on it.
Yeah, I'm going to sell. Just a little bit. I'm going to sell.
I'm buying.
Okay.
Get the old man away.
Fair enough. All right.
Was that do us?
I think that does it.
I think it's
I think
it.
that does it. We covered just about everything. Next time, Drew and I have to go stop an Amber Alert. So
Yes.
we hope you can join us if we're still around for Sports Around the
Gotta
Bar.
load the old rifle up.
Does the thing still work? I guess we'll find out after the show. We'll be back next Tuesday live, as well as maybe in between with some other content coming out. Just trying to get that last little boost out of Facebook. Again, guys, every comment, every like, every share helps us actually make some money for the first time off of Facebook, even though it's starting to feel like Zuckerberg kind of
Lied.
put the wool over our eyes.
Anyways,
You know
guys,
how
thank
it
you
is.
so for all the comments,
We
likes,
still
and shares.
are happy that you showed up.
You guys,
Because we don't need money to do this. We're having a good time.
you guys mean so much to us. I do want to give special thanks out to everyone that commented that we saw, and if I missed you, I'm sorry. But Mitchell, Chris, Eddie, Corey, Ian, Ty, Travis, JP, you guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. It means a lot to us. It really
Great
does.
show. I'm glad we settled who the best teams and the best weapons are. Next week, we're settling who the best defenses are, apparently. I think we're having to look into that. We'll see.
Oh, of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we should.
1938 Cleveland. No, I'm just kidding. We'll be back next week. We hope you can join us. Guys, same time, 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central.
Just
Tuesday.
made my head hurt.
We'll see you then.
See ya.